President, what are you making of the market sell-off this week?
I think it's globalists that see how rich our country is going to be and they don't like it. You know, there's a big market out there. And if they can cut, it's better. And if they don't cut, then Elon will do the cutting.
Mr. President, is that a reflection if you think Doge?
There you have President Trump answering questions moments ago in the Oval Office. Talked a lot about the hostages, meeting with them yesterday. Talked a little bit about Doge. He met with some members of Doge.
And that's unusual. Fox cutting away from Trump mid-rant. I mean, could it be that they're turning over a new leaf?
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
Or is it more so down to the fact that the more airtime they give the guy, the more the Dow ticker in the bottom corner plummets?
The United States has been taken advantage of for 40 years. The United States has been a laughingstock for years and years. That's why this gentleman is built in Taiwan instead of building here. It would have been better if he built here. If we had a president that knew what they were doing, and we had a lot of them very bad on trade.
That's not all trade. We're seeing dramatic, just free falls. Now, some of this is early in the first quarter, but this is scary stuff. So
now, you know, things aren't going well when even Trump's once treasured megaphone of Fox News are pushing back, particularly on his big, beautiful, bold theories that the prices he promised would come down on day one are in fact not. Instead, they're going up.
It'll all happen very quickly. This will rapidly drive prices down, lower interest rates, and put more money into the pockets of American consumers. It'll also bring your grocery bill way down. I have more complaints on grocery. The word grocery, you know, it's sort of simple word, but it sort of means like everything you eat. The stomach is speaking. It always does. They're about protecting the soul of our country. Tariffs are about making America rich again and making America great again, and it's happening, and it will happen rather quickly. There'll be a little disturbance, but we're okay with that. It won't be much. No, you're not. Oh.
But it's not his fault. Of course not. It has to be Biden's. I mean, it's not like a car just jumped $20,000 in price immediately after he discussed imposing tariffs.
The auto industry expects to feel the impact of President Trump's tariffs. Fox Business's Jeff Flock is in Glen Mills, Pennsylvania this morning with a first-hand look. Jeff.
Could be ground zero for the impact on the tariffs, Maria. This Dodge Ram truck, $80,000. Instantly became $100,000.
And while we're accustomed to seeing, say, Jessica Tarlov push back with a shot of vodka and a celery stick needed while sitting next to this dude.
Could be adding Montana, basically, for the Republicans, and electorally like a Texas for the Democrats. Mm-hmm. And I don't like that. But the fact that they don't want us to take them over makes me want to invade. I want to quench my imperialist thirst.
I think that keeping the Chinese tariffs was obviously a good idea. Biden even did that. But you guys know, and you're ignoring what's going on, that these tariffs are bad for Americans. A majority know that it will raise costs. That's the reason they had to walk them back. Don't talk to me about India and the Indians being on Harley Davidsons. Talk to me about the automakers.
Move on to Dana,
no,
because
just
we
one
have no
second
time.
here. 82% of Americans want Trump to be focused on the economy. Only 36% said that he's actually doing that. They know the tariffs are a loser. Howard Lutnick is trying to backtrack. Scott Bessent trying to backtrack on it. Well, it will bankrupt people.
You know, when you partner this alongside Brett Baer's segment recently in which he explained how, contrary to what Donald Trump and his minions would have Americans believe, US manufacturers won't be protected because tariffs will be paid by other countries. In fact, companies responsible for importing a product are the ones who physically pay tariffs, and they are usually US companies.
Thanks, Aisha. Let's take a closer look at the tariffs imposed by President Trump today. Last year, the United States did $2.2 trillion in trade with the countries targeted: Mexico, Canada, and China. You see the dollar amounts there. President Trump insists U.S. manufacturers will be protected because tariffs will be paid by these countries. But it's not quite that simple. The so-called importer of record, the companies responsible for importing a product, are the ones that physically pay tariffs to the federal government. They are usually U.S. companies. Here, the tariffs are collected by Customs and Border Protection at 328 ports of entry across the country. That money goes to the general fund of the U.S. government, managed by the Treasury Department. Now, What happens is when someone ships something into the U.S., say they use FedEx, for example, the shipper fills out a declaration of what it is, how much it costs, and if that product is on the list for a tariff, FedEx would collect the fee where it came in and then transfer that to the U.S. Customs on site. The whole process, much more complex and complicated than the pro-tariff crowd usually describes. Now, many companies are enrolled in an electronic payment program. They have tariff fees automatically deducted from their bank accounts, and they bring products through ports of entry. The port of Laredo, for example, in Texas, is the #1 port in the nation, with $339 billion in total trade passing through just last year. Now, much of that is with Mexico, because cars and trucks are the top U.S. import from Mexico. Let's look at an example in the automotive industry. Now, 62% of Chevrolet's Silverado parts, the parts, are made in the U.S. and Canada. General Motors, for example, has assembly plants for the Silverado in Oshawa, Canada, Fort Wayne, Indiana, Flint, Michigan, Springfield, Ohio, and in Mexico. Each time something crosses the border, including thousands of individual parts and the final vehicle, a tariff is assessed and paid by the company. Now, companies obviously can choose to absorb these tariff costs. That would lead to eating into their profits, obviously. Bigger companies can try to force suppliers to lower their prices, something smaller companies really probably can't do. Or they all pass the cost on to consumers in the form of higher prices. On the international front, President Trump's tariffs quickly set off a chain reaction today. Mexico's president says she will announce retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods Sunday. Canada responded right away with plans to impose 25% tariffs on nearly $100 billion of U.S. imports. And China says it will impose additional tariffs of up to 15% on U.S. farm products on March 10th, as countries vent their frustrations over what they see as an expanding trade war.
And this is indicative of an administration that is losing ground and fast, to the point that it's not just the unexpected voices on Fox distancing themselves from his tariff plan, but even the type of guests that you'd usually find at the edges of tables at Mar-a-Lago waiting for scraps.
I think President Trump, on economics and otherwise, is doing very well. But you remember the old saying, the danger of rising high is that the air gets thin. I'm worried about the tariffs.
Yep.
I'm not saying that tariffs are going to cause inflation. President Trump did them in his first term, and they didn't. I'm saying that we just don't know. We're in very obscure territory. We're in uncharted waters. I think if the tariffs do start to cause inflation, I think the president will back away from them. And I'm not saying that I don't trust President Trump, but you know, there's another saying, you know, trust in God, but tie up your camel. You know, I mean, if this starts causing inflation, we're going to have to recalibrate, because I'm telling you, I'm not saying the border isn't important, and Ukraine and the Middle East and culture wars and the Academy Awards and the Super Bowl, all those things are important. But the single most important thing, the things that moms and dads worry about when they lie down to sleep at night and can't, and the thing they expect the president to fix is high prices.
And this is because Trump's trade war has already caused a seismic shift in his public persona, with more and more Americans growing increasingly frustrated and concerned that he simply isn't focused enough on reducing prices, which he said he would do.
But on the economy, he can't even beat himself. Again, this is historically the worst going back in polling at this point in a presidency, the net approval rating on the economy. He's right now at -4 points. In term number one, he was at +8 points. Historically, the average is +15 points. He is doing nearly 20 points worse than the average president when it comes to the economy on net approval rating. He is historically doing awful, weak. And on the issue on which he was elected to, of course, fix, he is doing historically awful. This is not good. If this number holds, you can guarantee his overall approval rating will go down, and it could take his entire presidency with him.
And this also now can change very quickly because of tariffs. I mean, you have a lot of mixed reaction coming in from especially amongst Republicans on what these tariffs are really going to mean. I mean, can these tariffs help the president?
I don't think they're going to help the president, at least in the near term. And the reason why is simply put, look at the opposition. Americans oppose tariffs on Canada. Look at this. You got nearly 2/3 of the country opposing it on Canada, 64%. How about on Mexico? Nearly 3/5 of the country at 59%.
I mean, someone passed me my pearls to clutch at the realization that a billionaire egomaniac is more focused on, say, invading sovereign territory and, well, renaming gulfs that nobody gives a shit about than everyday working Americans. For those of us who have paid attention, this is who Trump is and who he's always been. And only now, the net of those impacted is a little wider. Therefore, those who only wanted him to hurt migrants and most marginalized groups are feeling the pain a little and are outraged.
Mr. Trump, I ask you as a supporter and a voter, how in the hell is having Canada and Greenland and renaming the Gulf of America going to save me money on my grocery bill and my tax?
Can't get enough Meidas? Check out the Meidas Plus Substack for ad-free articles, reports, podcasts, daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, and more. Sign up for free now at MeidasPlus.com.